In the brutal wilderness of Wyoming's Bighorn Mountains, where winter temperatures plummet to deadly extremes and survival is measured in hours rather than days, a freak blizzard separated a rare Palomino Mustang Foal from his herd and buried him alive under 6 feet of snow. What should have been a certain death sentence became the most extraordinary survival story ever documented in wild horse history. Subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell for incredible stories of survival that prove nature's miracles are real. When search and rescue teams found 3-month-old Blaze 5 days after the storm, what they discovered would challenge everything scientists knew about hypothermia survival, redefine the limits of animal endurance, and inspire a global movement to protect America's wild horses from the devastating effects of climate change. The blizzard that struck Wyoming's Bighorn Mountain Range on February 14, 2024, was unlike anything meteorologists had predicted. What began as a routine winter storm escalated into a catastrophic weather event that would test the survival limits of every living creature caught in its path, especially a 3-month-old Palomino Mustang Foal who would become the center of an international rescue effort. Ranch helicopter pilot Maria Santos was conducting a routine wild horse survey flight when the storm hit with unprecedented intensity. "I've been flying these mountains for 15 years, Maria radioed to base control as visibility dropped to near zero. "But I've never seen weather turn this violent, this fast." The Shoshone Creek wild horse herd, led by a magnificent black stallion named Thunder, had been grazing in a protected valley when the blizzard struck. In the chaos of the storm, with winds reaching 70 miles per hour and snow falling at a rate of 4 inches per hour, the herd was forced to seek emergency shelter in whatever terrain they could find. But in the panic of the storm, disaster struck. Blaze, a rare Palomino foal born late in the season, became separated from his mother, Storm Dancer, during the herd's desperate flight to safety. The young foal, with his distinctive golden coat and white markings that made him a genetic treasure among wild Mustang populations, found himself alone in the worst blizzard in Wyoming's recorded history. "We lost visual contact with the herd around 2 p.m., Maria reported as she was forced to emergency land at the nearest ranch. The storm came in so fast that animals didn't have time to reach their usual winter shelters. Dr. James Mitchell, a wild horse specialist from the University of Wyoming, was monitoring the storm's impact on local wildlife populations when Maria's report reached him. His immediate concern was for the vulnerable members of the herds, pregnant mares, elderly horses, and young foals who were least equipped to survive extreme weather conditions. A 3-month-old foal separated from his mother in these conditions has maybe 6 hours before hypothermia becomes fatal, Dr. Mitchell explained to the emergency response team assembling at the ranger station. After that, survival becomes statistically impossible. But Blaze's situation was even more dire than anyone realized. As the storm raged through the night, the young foal had taken shelter against a large boulder in what seemed like a protected area. However, the combination of drifting snow and the boulder's position created a natural snow trap that gradually buried the foal alive. By morning, when the storm finally began to subside, Blaze was completely entombed under 6 feet of densely packed snow. He was invisible from the surface, with no way for rescuers to locate him and no apparent way for him to dig himself out. The foal essentially became trapped in a snow cave, Dr. Mitchell would later explain to researchers studying the case. Under normal circumstances, this would have been a death trap. The combination of cold, lack of oxygen, and inability to move should have been fatal within hours. As dawn broke on February 15th, search and rescue teams began the seemingly impossible task of locating a small foal somewhere in hundreds of square miles of snow-covered wilderness, not knowing that Blaze was already fighting for his life in a frozen tomb that should have claimed him before help could arrive. While search and rescue teams scoured the snow-covered mountains looking for signs of the missing foal, Blaze was waging a battle for survival that would defy every scientific understanding of hypothermia and cold weather endurance in young animals. Trapped beneath 6 feet of snow in what had become an airless tomb, Blaze's survival depended on a combination of instinct, physiology, and what could only be described as miraculous adaptation to impossible conditions. Dr. Mitchell's team, coordinating the search effort, operated under the assumption that they were looking for a body rather than a living animal. After 24 hours in these conditions, we're essentially conducting a recovery operation, Dr. Mitchell told the search teams as they prepared for their second day of looking. Hypothermia would have been fatal long before now. But Blaze was demonstrating survival mechanisms that amazed veterinary experts who later studied his case. The young foal had instinctively created a small breathing space in the snow around his muzzle, using his breath to melt and maintain a tiny air pocket that provided just enough oxygen to sustain life. What Blaze accomplished was essentially creating a survival igloo, explained Dr. Sarah Chen, a veterinary physiologist who analyzed the foal's survival techniques. He used his own body heat and breathing to create a microenvironment that, while still deadly, was just barely survivable. The search effort had expanded to include thermal imaging helicopters, ground teams with avalanche probes, and even search dogs trained to detect animals buried under snow. But the massive amount of fresh snowfall and the remote mountain terrain made locating one small foal seem nearly impossible. Maria Santos, the pilot who had witnessed the storm's initial impact, refused to give up hope. "I keep thinking about that little golden foal," she told search coordinators. "He was so beautiful, so full of life. There has to be a chance he's still alive somewhere." On the third day of the search, Blaze's condition had deteriorated to the point where survival seemed impossible even to him. His body temperature had dropped dangerously low, his breathing had become shallow and labored, and his movements were limited to the smallest possible motions to conserve energy. But something extraordinary was happening at the cellular level. Blaze's young body was demonstrating metabolic adaptations similar to those seen in hibernating animals, slowing his heart rate, reducing his oxygen consumption, and entering a state of near-suspended animation that allowed him to survive on minimal resources. Blaze was essentially hibernating while awake, Dr. Chen observed when studying his case. His body was shutting down non-essential functions to maintain just enough life to keep him alive. The breakthrough in the search came when Storm Dancer, Blaze's mother, was spotted by aerial surveillance teams repeatedly returning to the same area of the mountain. The mare's behavior suggested she knew something the humans didn't, that her foal was still alive and located in that specific location. "Animal mothers have instincts we don't fully understand," Maria observed as she watched Storm Dancer paw at the snow with obvious distress. "She knows her baby is down there somewhere." As the search teams converged on Storm Dancer's location, they had no idea they were about to discover not just a surviving foal, but a medical miracle that would revolutionize understanding of cold weather survival in mammals. On February 18th, 4 days after Blaze disappeared in the blizzard, the search and rescue team made a discovery that would shock the veterinary world and challenge everything scientists believed about the limits of survival in extreme cold conditions. Following Storm Dancer's persistent behavior at a specific location, search team leader Captain Rick Morrison made the decision to use ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the snow where the mare kept pawing and calling. What the equipment revealed seemed impossible. There was a cavity in the snow, and something was moving inside it. "We've got signs of life," Captain Morrison radioed to Dr. Mitchell with barely contained excitement. "Whatever's down there, it's still moving." The careful excavation that followed revealed the most extraordinary survival scene any of the rescuers had ever witnessed. 6 feet beneath the surface, they found Blaze, not only alive, but alert and responsive, having survived 4 days in conditions that should have killed him within hours. "This is medically impossible," Dr. Mitchell whispered as they carefully extracted the golden foal from his snow tomb. "No mammal should be able to survive this long in these conditions." Blaze's condition amazed everyone involved in the rescue. While he was obviously weakened and hypothermic, his vital signs were stable, and he was able to stand and walk with assistance. Most remarkably, he showed no signs of frostbite or tissue damage that would normally be expected after prolonged exposure to extreme cold. "He's like a little miracle," said veterinary technician Lisa Park as she began emergency treatment. "His body temperature is low, but not dangerously so, and his circulation appears to be normal. It's like he found a way to put himself in suspended animation." Dr. Chen's immediate examination revealed that Blaze had essentially created a sophisticated survival system in his snow cave. The foal had used his body heat to create a stable microclimate, maintained an air supply through careful breathing techniques, and even managed to stay hydrated by eating small amounts of clean snow. Blaze demonstrated survival intelligence that we associate with Arctic animals, not domestic horses, Dr. Chen explained, as she documented his remarkable condition. He adapted to extreme conditions in ways that suggest either exceptional instinct or rapid evolutionary response. The reunion between Blaze and Storm Dancer provided one of the most emotional moments any of the rescuers had ever witnessed. The mare's relief and joy were unmistakable as she nuzzled her recovered foal, and Blaze's immediate response to his mother's presence accelerated his recovery dramatically. "The bond between this mare and foal is extraordinary," observed animal behaviorist Dr. Patricia Rodriguez, who arrived to study the case. "Storm Dancer never gave up searching, and her persistence literally saved Blaze's life." But Blaze's survival story was just beginning. His case was attracting attention from cold weather survival experts, veterinary physiologists, and even human medical researchers interested in understanding how the foal had achieved what seemed like a biological impossibility. "Blaze has survived something that should have been unsurvivable," Dr. Mitchell reflected, as he watched the foal nursing from his mother for the first time in 4 days. "His story is going to change how we understand the limits of mammalian survival and possibly lead to breakthroughs in treating human hypothermia." 6 months after his miraculous survival in the Wyoming blizzard, Blaze had become the most studied wild horse in American history, with his case leading to groundbreaking discoveries in cold weather survival medicine and revolutionizing wildlife protection strategies across the northern United States. The scientific community embraced Blaze's survival story as a breakthrough case study in extreme weather adaptation. Dr. Chen's detailed research, published in the Journal of Veterinary Emergency Medicine, documented survival mechanisms that challenged fundamental assumptions about hypothermia and cold weather endurance in mammals. Blaze demonstrated physiological adaptations that we previously thought were impossible in horses, Dr. Chen explained during her presentation to the International Conference on Wildlife Medicine. His survival techniques have applications for treating human hypothermia victims and understanding evolutionary adaptation to climate change. The medical innovations inspired by Blaze's case had immediate practical applications. Emergency room protocols for treating hypothermia patients were revised based on his survival mechanisms, and wilderness survival training programs incorporated techniques observed during his 4-day ordeal. Dr. Mitchell established the Blaze Research Institute at the University of Wyoming, dedicated to studying extreme weather survival in wildlife and developing protection strategies for wild horse populations facing increasingly severe climate conditions. Blaze's story came at a critical time when climate change is creating more frequent extreme weather events, Dr. Mitchell explained as he unveiled the Institute's research programs. His survival techniques could be the key to helping wildlife populations adapt to changing environmental conditions. The economic and conservation impact of Blaze's story generated millions of dollars in funding for wild horse protection programs. The Blaze Foundation, established by donations from people inspired by his survival, supported emergency shelters, weather monitoring systems, and rapid response teams for wildlife emergencies. Storm Dancer and Blaze remained together in their mountain habitat, now protected by enhanced monitoring systems that could predict dangerous weather conditions and trigger early warning protocols for wild horse herds. "We've learned that wild horses have survival capabilities we never recognized," said Captain Morrison, who led the rescue effort and now directs the Wyoming Wild Horse Emergency Response Program. "Blaze taught us to never give up hope and to trust that nature has solutions we haven't discovered yet." The international media attention surrounding Blaze's story inspired similar wildlife protection initiatives in Canada, Alaska, and Scandinavia, where extreme weather events threatened wild animal populations. Children around the world wrote letters to Blaze, sharing their own stories of overcoming impossible challenges and thanking him for proving that miracles could happen when hope seemed lost. Blaze represents the resilience we all need when facing seemingly insurmountable obstacles, said Dr. Rodriguez, who continued studying the psychological aspects of his survival. His story teaches us that adaptation and survival are possible even in the most extreme circumstances. Maria Santos, the pilot who first witnessed the blizzard, often flew over the area where Blaze was found, marveling at how one small foal's survival had created ripple effects that were protecting wildlife across North America. "Every time I see that golden coat running free in the mountains," Maria reflected, "I'm reminded that nature is more resilient and miraculous than we ever imagine." Blaze's incredible 4-day survival under 6 feet of snow proves that miracles happen when hope meets determination. If this amazing story of impossible survival inspired you, hit that subscribe button and share this video to support wildlife protection efforts. Tell us in the comments, what amazed you most about Blaze's survival instincts? Your support helps fund research that protects wild horses from extreme weather and saves lives through medical breakthroughs inspired by nature's miracles.